Guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lewis. This is the Gentleman's Garage, and here we're having a very, very special day. We're going to spend the day talking Ferrari with a very, very special guest who needs no introduction, Shmee 150. Hey,
How
Shmee.
you doing?
How are you, sir? Great
I'm
to
very
see you.
good. Thank you for having me. What a collection. Love to see what you're doing, sharing the cars.
Thank you
It's
very
so
much.
Cool.
And thank you for saying that. It means a lot coming from a guy like him who knows. I thought I knew a lot about cars. We spent a lot of time chatting about these cars, and as soon as I give him a good rundown of everything I think I know about the cars, he tells me 10 more things. So it's been good fun. It's been a lot of fun. I guess the best part is sharing the passion that we have for the cars. What I really love about when we talk about cars, everything we've talked about today is, we don't really get into performance numbers and this and that and 0 to 60. It's what it's like to drive each one of these cars.
What makes it special?
What makes it special?
What gives you that connection to it?
Exactly.
And coming today, one of the coolest things for me is you have a certain blue car that I'm very familiar with. I've driven it in the UK. It used to belong to a good friend of mine. But this whole lineage, this history, right? Ferrari was standing in front of your latest purchase.
For sure.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's a car we both love. Just one of us has the keys and the other doesn't.
Well, this one I found to be very special. To best of our knowledge, there was only roughly 50 made with the carbon fiber roof.
Correct.
Which was a feature I really, really wanted. And then for me, as we've talked about, the red interior versus it being all black. I love the red seats because it just kind of breaks up all the inside with the red. But, and maybe you can help us out with this, this is something that I've never seen before. I've never seen this in the paint done from the factory.
No, not familiar with it either. Because on the LaFerraris, and this is interesting in the world where you have an aqua blue F40.
Yes.
Is that Ferraris, even up to LaFerrari, was still like, here are your color choices.
Yes.
When they introduced the Aperta, it was 5 colors, whoever you were, nothing else. No special colors on the Aperta. That was it.
And again, I'm still learning more from this guy about cars that I own. It's amazing.
LaFerraris, they did some with exclusive details, like for example, your painted Italian flag, and some in one-off colors, but it was very few and far between. And it was the later cars for customers who had been really top-end customers.
That's amazing.
XX clients, Corsa Clienti clients, that kind of thing.
So then this must have been a special person.
So this definitely had a significant Ferrari collector as its first owner. The thing is, though, do you know what? I'm not afraid to say this. When the LaFerrari launched, I didn't get it at first. I always loved the F50. I always loved the engine.
Is that hybridization?
I just love the look of it. I didn't understand it when it arrived. Fast forward a decade.
Yes.
Because this thing's now 10 years old, 11 years old.
It's astounding to think.
I love these things. Every time I've been lucky to go near one, out in one, hear one, drive one, your heart pounds, you understand it, you appreciate how Ferrari just have this knack of making things great.
They have done it well.
Really making a car that's fascinating.
They have done it well.
The first time I came across you guys, this was the imminent arrival. I saw the video pop up online. I was like, wow, this is cool what you're doing. It's cool to share. Racing in the challenge. Video to life.
That has been quite the journey for sure. A lot of fun. Now I'm going to get in it with Shmee, learn probably even more about it than I have putting 1,000 miles on my car. And without that, let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Here we are, back in a car that you are very familiar with, more so than me.
Well, I've been lucky to drive a number of these LaFerrari Apertas. Not quite 1,000 miles. You have more miles on your car.
A LaFerrari Aperta. So someone asked me what's one of the cons of this car, and I would say there's only one I can really think of. It's not an Aperta. I just want to hear more of that V12, and the open roof would allow me to do that. So let's talk about this car, right? I've got 1,000 miles in it, but you've been in and around this car for, I'm assuming, almost this entire decade that it's been in
I was
existence.
at the Geneva Motor Show when the covers came off.
Wow.
The first video on YouTube of the LaFerrari, before Ferrari's own channel, was my video of the cover coming off at the Geneva Motor Show.
Get out of here.
So, I remember being like, it's not every day a new Ferrari hypercar comes along, right? It's the big five. And that takes you back to the 80s. 200 GTO, F40, F50, Enzo, LaFerrari, and soon, we can touch on this in a moment, the next generation.
Number 6.
These are such iconic cars, generation-defining cars, technology-defining cars. If you look at what's happened, and if you look at each one of them, they're kind of different, but the same. They're the same in the sense that they're the flagship, the standout, the most special thing that Ferrari can make. But they're different in the sense of how each car works, like the 288 being made for Group B, the F40 and what it stands for and being the fastest car in the world at the time, the F50 taking the F1 derived V12, the Enzo just visually is a completely different thing to everything else.
Totally different.
Again, semi-auto gearbox. And then LaFerrari, the hybrid generation. The next car will also be a hybrid, but something a little bit different. We've been out just now in the F40, and the F40 to the LaFerrari. Obviously, they're separated by 25 years, right? A lot happened in the interim. But it's amazing to think that these were the defining cars of their time. You know, when this arrived, and I'm the first to admit, when the LaFerrari was introduced, for me, of the Holy Trinity, I was a McLaren fanboy at the time. I liked the idea of dailying a 918 because I figured Porsche would do that, and I didn't really understand where the LaFerrari sat into that mix. But fast forward, and this is my favourite of the three now, like no questions, I understand it now. I've got it. And it's a very welcoming car to drive. I'm like doing the review from the passenger seat here. Like you hop in it and you can just kind of go, right?
Absolutely.
It's not as intimidating as some of the crazy hypercars can be.
That's absolutely true.
And so I feel like it never loses its specialness. The way you look out in these mirrors, I remember when they launched it was kind of like these insect arms.
Yeah, they did, I remember thinking the same thing. Now I look at it and I can't imagine it with any sort of different type of mirror design. It's amazing.
And the more you drive, you start to see the spoiler popping up out the back. You get used to seeing that. It's got this, you know, we're used to cars with active air brakes. You get on the brake, it flips up in the air. But this comes out of the back and it's variable depending what you're doing. It's kind of sliding in and out constantly.
When I first saw it, I was struck with the beauty. It's a little different than you in that regard, but you know, it was the first time, and of course, the 918 Spider did the same thing, where it was a hybrid, right? And I kind of was like, I don't know if I like this. What's going on here? Driving the car now, as much as I've driven it, the last thing I think of with this car is if there's any hybridization whatsoever. The unit works so well as one. That's really incredible. It just feels like, which it is, it's an NAV12, but it feels like to me, all the power, the torque, the horsepower is all coming just from that engine. I don't feel like I'm driving any sort of hybrid.
Well, you know what's really interesting is that I've been lucky to drive the new Daytona. And the Daytona is, in many ways, a sister car to this. Carbon fiber monocoque, shares the engine, well, shares the evolution of the engine behind, but without the hybrid assistance. You expect the purists would say, you know, thank goodness they've got rid of the battery tech, it's lighter, it's more nimble. But what's interesting is the way the hybrid was set up in this is so clever that it hides its weight. You're not conscious that the Daytona is lighter, it's not really like that, but it gives you that seamless early torque, which fills in the time that the V12 is building up.
That's right.
And it means that as a result, the LaFerrari is a much more agile, nimble, exciting car than the Daytona, which is something
over the Daytona.
Like,
wow.
The concept, and the first time I drove it, I was really like, wait a second, that's actually kind of strange, because I'm a purist, right? So I shouldn't want a hybrid. I should be fully, let's have that. Fully, let's just have the engine and nothing but. But it was done so cleverly in this that it doesn't intrude on your driving experience.
It is.
It doesn't add pointless weight to it for no benefit. It's really the hybrid about performance, about acceleration, about earlier power out of corners, etc., etc. Obviously, it was never done as you can kind of drive it in electric. It has the creep kind of mode, you know, the silent, what's it called, silent, where you just get in the car and you can move it around a garage.
I'll tell you why. I have no idea what it's called, because I would never drive it in that mode.
Turn it on, engine on,
immediately,
nothing else.
Immediately, you know, even you know, we both have the 296 GTS, which obviously has a 10-year, 11-year on now, much further developed a hybrid assist system and whatnot, and of course, you know, you could drive maybe 15 miles in those cars in electric. I've tried it once in my SF90. It was so weird. It was eerie just going down the road in a Ferrari, and it was silent. All you hear is like, you know.
So I quite often drive my SF90 and 296 in electric.
No kidding.
Quite often, because my, let's say, home to work commute is only a couple of miles.
Okay.
And I can easily get from my garage back to my home and back to the garage in full electric in either car. So I just kind of enjoy doing it. I enjoy the concept of it. I'm often driving at stupid hours of the night, so I enjoy arriving at home quietly.
Yeah.
Like it's a funny concept because I never thought I'd be that guy, but I do really enjoy it. Yet on the other hand, find a nice road, qualifying mode or performance mode.
Always.
I mean, in the 296, the surprising thing is that V6 engine sounds fantastic.
It really does.
Like, we're in the V12. This is obviously ahead. But as V6s go, the 296 engine is better than many V8s.
Yeah.
Sounds better than many V8s.
I would argue, if I may, that the 296 sounds better than my SF90.
It does.
Oddly enough.
It does. No,
you
I
would
agree.
Okay.
The interesting thing talking about that is that the next, well, the big six, the sixth car in this lineup is probably, if I was to bet, going to be a V6.
That's what the rumors seem to be. You know, and listen, you know, the Piccolo V12, as they refer to it in the 296, which I thought was like, is this really? But I was in the very first class of the Corso Piloto, which is put on by Ferrari, to drive the 296 on track at Fiorano.
Oh, cool.
It was quite a bucket list experience for me. And I was blown away. The car does sound really, really well. But think about this car 10 years ago. It set the standard for what was to come in technology, which we now see in the SF90 296 that we're talking about with the hybrid assist. And, you know, now that's what Ferrari has to do now in the number 6 hypercars, set the standard for the future, what's to come.
And do you know what I think they've done really cleverly? What they've done really cleverly is introduce the Icona series.
That was brilliant.
If you turn around and say, I don't want a hypercar with a V6, well, Ferrari will turn around and tell you, we also happen to make a Monza, a Daytona, and a whatever's next, which have 12-cylinder engines. So
you are fortunate enough to have driven the SP3 and this car on many occasions, and so you find this to be more agile.
I just think it's more, you just get more of that instant go from it. You don't, like I say, notice the additional weight. That's the big worry, is does it feel, because of the weight of the battery and so forth in here. But you don't really, because it's a very small hybrid system, right? The way the motor is done, the way it's a small battery pack, it's not throwing, you know, it's not like a whole Tesla battery that they're trying to wedge into the thing. It's nothing like that. We're sat in a carbon fiber monocoque. Like, this is the other thing, right? These seats are part of the tub. Like, you're not moving the seat in. This was like, this car just has so many ridiculous concepts, technologies, ideas going on. And I think that the idea of a hypercar is to be a leader in technology and performance. And to do that in the modern world, you also have to adapt. And if that means putting a V6 into it rather than a V12, I'm not offended by it personally. Because, you know, I particularly love my Ford GT, which is a V6. I love my 296, which is a V6. So I'm not against that if there's a reason for it. And if the reason for it is to be a more responsive, more efficient, more powerful, smaller, lightweight power plant, what's not to love?
And even 10 years, 11 years on, to your point, with the SP3, no hybrid assist, it doesn't have the immediacy as you described
Not the immediacy, nor the performance. It's nowhere nearly as fast. It's really quite fascinating. But I tell you what, I've just got to say it, while we're driving along, that soundtrack in the background, every time you shift, like you had one big downshift a moment ago, and I was just like, yep, perfect.
It is definitely one of those things that never gets old. That's why I said if I had my only con, let's say this car, is that I didn't splurge another $1.5 million to get into the Aperta, because we didn't be able to experience it anymore. Or more. You're probably right. I might be being conservative on that. You're probably right. But you know, so question for you: what is your thought? We're talking Ferrari. We're talking about, you know, this is weird. It's still weird to say that this is now part of the history of Ferrari, because getting in this car still feels so cutting edge and modern. But yes, the reality of it is the replacement for this is inevitable towards the end of the year if rumors hold true. But when you think about some of the cars that are out today, you know, we both are friends with the Hennessy guys, which they make a wonderful product, and I love to see what they're doing there. Texas boys, so I'm very proud of them. But you know, it's an 1,800 horsepower car. You know, Bugatti's got the hybrid.
The new car.
Yes, new
the
car.
V16 car.
It makes me wonder, with this car, you know, 10, 11 years ago, 1,000 horsepower car was unheard of.
Yeah, whereas now you can just walk out and buy an SF90.
All day long.
Like, there are tons of cars that have that number.
Right. Amazing. So,
and electric cars. Model S Plaid. Taycan Turbo GT.
Yes.
Like these cars, you know, you're playing an orchestra here. You are the conductor of the orchestra right now.
And we're on community roads. Oh gosh.
So good.
The only people that have it better than you and I sitting here is the people that get to hear that thing as we go by.
But they only get it briefly.
I applaud them. Yeah, only briefly. So, but knowing that number 6 has got to set the standard, right, for the future for Ferrari, and it will be its new flagship. Do you have a guesstimate of what the overall horsepower output will be?
I actually don't think it will be 1800 or something quite that high. I don't think it needs to be. I think there are different types of cars with different objectives, and for sure there's a brute power type thing, but I also think that there'll be a focus on weight, keeping weight down in it. I think there's a big focus likely in aero terms. I think aero has become even more important than ever.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing. I mean, you're racing now, right? So you know how in your 488 Challenge Evo, grip comes from the aero and from the tires and so many more things than just sheer horsepower figures.
Well, to your point, you make a very, very valid point, and let me just turn that into a numerical factor, right? At COTA, the best guys in the 488 Challenge were turning 211s.
Okay.
Right? The best guys in the 296s, not that much more up on power, 205s.
That's crazy.
6 seconds a lap.
Yep.
Because of what you're talking about. Aero, weight, grip, the whole thing.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it's amazing. And I think that, again, what we said with Ferrari having Icona series, I think they'll position the hypercar much more as a track performance monster.
And that would make a lot of sense.
Still a road car, meeting road homologation, but I think more along the lines of really being focused as a pure driving crazy experience, even more than this.
Yeah.
This is still pretty usable as a road car.
Very much so.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised to see it go more extreme because of the fact that you've got this dual hypercar lineup. If you want Ferrari hypercars, you can buy the Daytona SP3 on the one hand. Oh, you
hopefully
can.
you can.
Hopefully you can. Yeah, you
we
know
all
what I
know
mean.
that's a challenge.
You know what I mean. Yeah. And
It's
on the
there.
other hand, it exists. It
It
exists.
exists.
Market
It's an
prices
option.
do what they do. But
Yeah, they
it
do.
exists.
Which, to Ferrari's credit, and you and I have talked quite a bit about that today, is, one of the things that they've done is they have built that brand value.
Yep.
They're known for putting out some of the best products on the planet.
Yep.
It is a good feeling knowing that it's something that's going to be of significant value for the long-term future. It just gives you a stronger sense of pride in owning the car, which is part and parcel, but it does make me feel good about it.
I mean, when you own a car like this, it's almost like you're the custodian of it for now. You're preserving it for the future.
That's right.
Whether that's for your family, whether that's for wherever it may end up down the line.
We were driving the F40, and that's a 35-year-old.
Yeah.
My particular one's 35 years old. It's a 1989.
Yeah.
And I am just the custodian of that car for the time being. Now, I plan to have the car for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But that's not the rest of that car's life.
No, it's
right?
crazy to
That
think.
car will live on. This car will live on.
Yeah.
Who knows? 30, 40 years from now, there'll be 2 other, as you would say, chaps.
Yeah.
Going down the road, filming content in this LaFerrari.
Who knows what that looks like by then? I mean, we think that like glasses with cameras and stuff is futuristic now.
Yeah.
And what the Apple headsets, but who knows what the future's going to be?
To your point, it makes a lot of sense when we think about and we talk about what makes sense for the future Ferrari and for their future hypercars. Because that is the one thing that has really surprised me about this car. Most times, my wife is sitting in that seat.
Yep.
And we're going to lunch, we're going to dinner, we're doing whatever it is that we do. When my wife's not in that seat, my golf clubs are in that seat. I lay my golf clubs in that seat. And I put it was never an intention, it was never a goal. Wasn't even a thought in my mind to how fast can I put 1,000 miles on my new LaFerrari. It just happened because this car is so drivable.
Yeah.
Just going along here on community roads, it's no problem. It's just as easy as driving the new 296 or the SF90. It's just as easy to drive. And so I 100% agree with you. I think that with the Icona series and those cars to come, it makes total sense for them to think more like the 499P, if you will.
Yeah.
Right, relative to the next hypercar. That's kind of where My guess is.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the power plant that we know from the 499P somehow becomes a road derivative. The whole point of programs like Le Mans, and especially for Ferrari, the X-Axis programs, and now the Sport Prototipo programs, you know, the 499P Modificata program, is to make them, or to test and introduce technology and to bring things that will be usable in the road cars in the future. But no, the whole idea with that is that the tech, right, can become down the line in the cars that you have for the road.
Now in a road car.
Yeah.
And that is what so much of Ferrari's history and lineage has been that way. You know, going back to the 288 GTO,
Yep.
you know, for Group B racing, and then it ends up in a road car. And then because of that car, without the 288 GTO, the world would have never had the F40.
Yep.
Which, you know, you and I both agree is still just a mega,
Yes.
iconic, incredible driving machine to this day. And, you know, I mean, and here we are. What a day, by the way. I just have to say, meeting you has been just a tremendous pleasure.
Thank you. It's been an amazing stop.
Yeah, it's been awesome. We were very gracious. But, you know, I got to spend the day with someone that I look up to and admire, and in two of Ferrari's big five.
I know. Absolutely amazing to think about, because I remember for me, and I'm sure for you as well, these cars were on your posters.
Yes.
It wasn't something you thought that was real and one day you might get to spend time around, let alone own and drive. And
these certainly are dreams come true.
What a dream.
For sure. They most certainly are. You know, I made a video whenever we first bought this car. I was so excited to not only to own it, but also to share it with the world.
Yeah.
And really as more of a inspiration of, hey, if you really go for it, if you really give it your all, your dreams really can come true. And, you know, I've got that with a few of my cars. You know, with the Countach we talked about earlier today, being on my wall forever. Never thought that would be a reality. Now it's there. But when this car came out, the poster, and I had the poster with this car with the butterfly doors up, and it was kind of all blacked out in the back. It was just amazing. And I made this silly little joke when I first got the car. But I wasn't joking. I was actually meaning it. I actually meant it. I am that corny. I do like the fact that I can go in my garage and open the doors up, turn the lights off, and the poster's now a reality.
That's great.
And here we are, just in the nick of time of the rain. What a drive. What a day.
What a car. What a everything. Thank you.
Everything. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much.
That.